before my HVAC experience, I got online and was Googling anything I could do to fix my own air conditioner. And I was outside in the middle of winter with a vacuum cleaner trying to clean the coils, and eventually had to call the guy. And he shows up. He's like, "You did what? Right? You did what to this unit? Like, do you want a job? Would you like a real job?"
We get very different responses talking to people. They're not afraid to call me. They're not afraid to ask questions, but they also know I'm going to show up and I'm going to fix a problem for them.
First, let me thank the sponsors of the podcast, helping get these awesome episodes out to you guys. So first up, we got VIZALOGIX. Have you ever had an annoying issue where you could have resolved it if you just had seen what the other person on the line was seeing? You could be busy. You could be taking calls from either your technicians or your customers. And it could be a nuisance call. It could be like a breaker that was turned off. They don't know how to turn on the system. Your tech is out there and they're trying to explain something over the phone, and you need to see it to help them out. Well, with VIZALOGIX TethrIT Now, you can do that. It's like a FaceTime, like a video call, and you're able to, it's more of a virtual type of deal because you're able to draw on the screen, point out different things, take a photo, and have all these records and that you can use for like training later, and you can kind of go back and see these issues that you helped resolve over the phone. You can use live video, augmented reality tools to guide, your simple fixes, see the situation maybe before you go out there. Maybe you need to go pick up parts, or you kind of need to see something before you can actually tell them if you can go fix it or whatever it may be. So you reduce wasted trips, increase customer satisfaction. There's no apps, no downloads, just a text message, and then they can get a link to connect. So the future of remote support has arrived. Learn more at VIZALOGIX.com/HVAC. And with Jobber, that is a CRM that we use. So that is night and day. We used to do paper invoices and I hated it. I hated doing the billing. I blocked off a day to do it, and it just took up a lot of time. So once we switched over to Jobber, I don't really spend time in the office too much doing paperwork. A lot of this stuff is already digital in their system. I can schedule jobs, which is maintenance. It reminds me and it reminds the customer, all that is done in the software, automated. And then you can have really nice quoting, invoicing, and then send this out through email, through PDFs, customer portal, whatever you want to do to have the customer view it and then pay you online. And you can take payments with Jobber. It's a lot quicker than the old mail out a check, mail out the invoice, collect invoices in person, all that stuff. So check it out. Visit getjobber.com/reliable HVACR. You get a 2-week free trial. You get a really nice discount. Go check that out. I appreciate the sponsors of the podcast. Hola, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reliable HVACR podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or on any other platform, watching or listening on the audio podcast. Wherever you are, please subscribe, follow, comment, like, all that good stuff. If you're on the audio podcast, like on Spotify or any of those other platforms, please leave a review, help out the podcast, get it out there, more eyes on us, and hopefully these episodes help out somebody. Now, we're almost at 10,000. I just want to put that out there. I'm very stoked. That was the end of the year goal. So hopefully we hit that by the time this airs, right? So this week we have the team of Matt and Megan from Mechanical Environments. That is a company that they own, they run, and right now it's only 2 of them. They're out there just staying busy, getting work done, and they niched down into this side of the industry where they only do cannabis facilities, growth rooms, and flower rooms, whatever you want to call them. So they're dealing with specifically these products, these environments where they have to control humidity, temp control, you know, be very careful around this product, about around the plants. These rooms are packed. These units are all over the place. They have over 10, 15, 17, maybe even more units to a customer that they have to deal with. And we'll talk about their journey in the trade, the whole full circle that happened on their way to getting into their own business, and the stuff they see, the stuff they work on, dealing in the cannabis HVAC industry, and what it's like working up there in Denver, Colorado. They deal with a little bit of altitude up there. So you can follow Mechanical Environments over on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I'm sure they have other platforms. I'll leave all of that in the description where you can follow them. Go check out some of their work. At the end of the podcast, we do go over some photos. So if you guys are listening, we'll try to explain as best we can. But if you want to see the photos, go check out, one of their platforms, follow them, or come on YouTube and watch the video version where I have the photos up on the screen. But yeah, without further ado, let them do the talking, and welcome Matt and Megan of Mechanical Environments.
All right, Matt, Megan, how are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for making the time. I know we've been trying to kind of figure this out. It's hectic when you're in the trade that we're in. And you guys seem to be pretty busy in what you guys do.
Yes.
A lot of service calls.
And emergencies.
You guys are from Denver, right?
Yes. We are based out of Denver, Colorado, but we work all over Colorado too. So mainly Denver, Boulder, up and down the I-25 corridor. Try to stay out of the mountains because it gets costly and expensive.
So what's your radius? Because like for us, it's not that hard to get to the next town, but we're in Texas, so it is a lot of ground to cover. We typically go 2 hours or so each way. What does your radius look like?
It's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
We try to stay in Denver, Boulder, which is like where all the parts houses are, and then we'll venture for the right customers, 2 hours in either direction. But
is it very isolated over there? Because you mentioned the supply house. Like I'm lucky enough that even though it used to be a small town, it's grown so much here down in South Texas, and I actually have several supply houses that I can go to on the way to, if I go 2 hours out, there's a couple on the way. And then we have this one city where like all the manufacturers that you can think of are actually there, like in the little plazas and stuff. And if you need equipment, you can go there. Are you guys real isolated, or do you have access to get to a manufacturer or a parts house?
It depends on where you are in the state.
Yeah.
So like Colorado has I-25, which just runs north and south, and along the highway, it's not too bad. But when you start getting into the mountains, you'll be at a spot where, you're 2-3 hours away from the parts house, and the nearest thing isn't even a Home Depot. It's like the True Value Ace, / ranch supply store. You'd be like, come on, I just need one fitting. Right.
Yeah, like I said, we used to be a small town, but I guess we're fortunate now. We have a few Home Depots, a few Lowe's. Like it's grown a lot recently, and but for you guys, I'm assuming truck stock is important, or like having the stuff that you need.
Very important, because a lot of what we use isn't even on the shelf half the time.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Because I mean, I typically don't have to order too much unless it's like a special thing. Like here, nobody presses, so I got to get my press fittings online and whatnot, just in case. Those are my like emergency fittings. And then everything else I try to keep on the truck, because my customers, I typically deal with like commercial, which is like restaurants and stuff. They love to call like at 5 o'clock. Hey, it wasn't working earlier. I thought it would start working later. I didn't want to bother you, and I'm like, you should have just called me in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to keep a stock of everything that we use all the time, because that lets us shop it around. Because if you need like a specialty low ambient kit 5 minutes before the parts house closes and you got to pay the premium, it's going to be like, it can be way more expensive, so.
Yeah, I try to tell people truck stock is very important. And I had a HVAC J on here last week, and we were talking about that too. Like that's just one of my pet peeves. Like when I go help somebody and I'm like, you see this equipment every day? Can you please stock this? Because now we got to drive 30 minutes, 40 minutes out and go get it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a
Megan's real
pet
good at
thing.
it.
Oh
She,
yeah, because I heard you guys on Pat's talk about how you guys are very organized over there at what you do. I'm trying to go in that direction. I just went digital with my invoicing, and like I said, the truck stock. I used to be a messy tech, and then you kind of see the more organized you get, the quicker the calls are, the easier the calls are. Your week goes by better, and it's just it helps you all around.
Yeah. Helps keep me sane. The more organized I can be, for sure.
How's the weather out there where you guys are? Because I would assume it's cold, pretty cold.
It depends on the day, to be honest.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, this week it snowed.
Yeah.
It was cold for a day, then it warmed back up, and then we had a few days that were in the 65-degree range. So it can go
Oh,
either way,
okay.
I mean, last Christmas we had -14, and we were out in it every day.
Damn.
Yeah.
In the
Cut.
mountain, it stays colder,
Uh-huh.
but Colorado or Denver, where we are, is at the base of the mountains. So a storm will come in and roll out, so it's not as
Gotcha. Yeah, because like it was 67 here where I'm at, and I wanted to put a jacket on. I was cold. Not used to that at all.
No, that's like perfect outside working weather.
Well, yeah, but lately all my calls have been indoors. I'm like, this is the time to be outside. But of course, summer is when I'm out there in that 110 degrees and
Mhm.
can't
Yeah.
can't get an indoor call at all. It's always out on the roof. Do you guys deal with any altitude? And does that affect you guys' work at all?
So all high
Or do you
altitude
guys?
accessories have to be installed. So like when you read the book and it's like if you're in high altitude, like
Mhm.
yeah. So, but really it's like a lot of pressure switches on furnaces and things like that. Like it's pretty trivial. But if you have a nuisance service call, you'll find that they probably didn't put the high altitude pressure switches in the furnace or things like that. So there is a little
But-
bit of high altitude. A lot of it's in the airflow side,
Okay.
because Colorado here is no humidity in the air market, right? So like the Supply House, will tell you to set your units up for 500, 550 CFM per ton, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't want to remove any moisture or you might crack the hardwood floors and ruin the piano.
But living in Colorado, like the altitude in general doesn't bother us.
Yeah,
But-
it will.
Yeah,
if you
because
put-
I had some people ask me, and they like I had some requests actually to have more people from specifically Colorado, and I have a couple that I'm trying to get on here
Yeah.
because people are curious about the altitude, like working in it, and then like dealing with the equipment up there.
Well, when you live in it every day, it doesn't affect you. But I'm originally from Ohio, and when I would come visit,
Okay.
like it's no joke. Like you hydrate
You
like
feel
crazy
it?
before you get out here. One beer is like 4 beers. Like it's crazy if you're not used
Yeah,
to it.
because I'm a big like I watch mostly basketball. I don't really watch the other sports, but like that's always the one thing. It's like that Denver team, like the
Mhm.
Nuggets. It's like they have an advantage whenever a team comes in because like they get gassed or they get out of breath.
Absolutely.
And it's a big deal. But so you guys, okay, so then you're from Ohio, Matt. Did you grow up in Colorado or did you move there too?
Between Colorado and California, but yeah,
Oh, you came from California?
originally.
Was it a major shock or change for you?
I mean, I moved here when I was a kid. I moved back to
Oh,
California.
okay.
Moved like I've lived in both states a couple different times. I think they're pretty similar, especially like going back the Midwest, East Coast way. Like California, Colorado do things in a pretty similar manner.
On the podcast, I like to kind of get everybody's like journey and story. How did you guys get into the trades?
Well, again, I'm from Ohio. So long story short, I was dating a guy who moved out here and took a job. So I would come visit him and I would visit my cousin. And my cousin's husband is the regional manager for Gary Pacific Supplies here
Okay.
in Colorado. So he was begging me for about 6 months before I finally was like, okay, maybe I'll come do sales for you. So I was a TSM for one of the distribution houses for just over 2 years.
But did you have any prior experience before
None.
that? Okay.
And no, he was like, you're mechanical enough. You work on your house. Like, you'll be fine. You have the right attitude, you'll be just fine.
And she became a territory sales manager for the Amanda Goodman line in the region.
Yeah.
And
So
how is that like doing sales and all that compared to like what you do now? I don't know, like what was it hectic? Did you like it? You didn't like it?
It was a great place to start for sure. Because again, not knowing anything about the industry, I busted my ass to learn everything I could, had flashcards, everything, because I'm helping contractors every day. I need to learn this stuff as quickly as I can.
Yeah, that's when I had I had the marketing team from Refrigeration Technologies before, and like I told Jay last week, even if women or anybody are not in the field, but they're dealing with the products, right? You have to talk to contractors and all the techs out there. You need to know your stuff. So you had to basically learn that when you went over there, right?
Yeah, I had to learn not only just the products I was selling, but we also did boilers and everything else too. So IAQ, had to learn so many products, so many product lines, different manufacturers, what their warranties are, what the perks of their products are, etc. And just working with contractors every day to try to better their business. It wasn't bad at all, but the funny part of it is here in Colorado, like the best contractors aren't here. Colorado's like the Wild West when it comes to HVAC.
Oh, okay.
So you can do service without a real license.
Oh, gotcha. That's one of those states.
So even though I barely knew anything about HVAC because I had read a manual, I could tell somebody how to do something because like, we'll pull up your manual on this page. Like you need to do this. Like, why do I know this? And you've been in the trade for 30 years. Like, that doesn't seem right.
when I've thought about that before. Like that must be, it must take a lot to learn all that stuff because you had no prior experience, and all the guys that are like in the supply houses or they try to sell you this stuff equipment wise or anything, you got to learn a lot of information. Honest, like you said, the manual is the best way to kind of get a grasp on that. But I get frustrated when I go into a supply house or something like that, and I get the new guy, and I'm trying to explain to them, and I try to tell them as simple as I can, and I still get the wrong part. And I'm there for a little while, so I can imagine it's a lot of information to take in. And like what you mentioned right now about the knowing more than the text sometimes, like that was always my fear when I started like going into the supply house. I'm like, shit, I don't know what I need this part, but I don't know like part number or specs on it or anything like that. So I always try to take the part with me and be like, I need this.
Yes, or at least have the model serial number with you of the unit. Like if you don't bring that, we can't help you at all on the sales side.
I got turned away. I got turned away when I started. I'm like, shit, I didn't write anything down, this and that. I just thought I needed a pressure switch or whatever it is. And they're like, we have tons of those. I don't know which one.
Yep.
So that was a learning experience when I started. And you just learn as you go, and it is what you make of it, basically.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. I mean, opportunities are so endless in this industry. I don't think I'll ever leave.
That's your company, right? Mechanical Environments?
Yeah.
So you guys co-own that together?
We do.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other techs, or is it just you guys?
It's just us right now. We desperately need to be hiring because we can't maintain everybody that we have. And
yeah, we're in the same boat. I know how hard that is.
Right. You just need like 2 more vehicles and all the tools, and like
we're a family business, so I think we're down to 4. And funny enough, it's my dad and his brother that do the hot side, and it's me and my brother that do the HVAC.
Nice.
So we've had a helper in the past, but like lately we've been really busy. The hot side, because like when it gets cold out, ours slows down a little bit. We do a lot of refrigeration, so that keeps us busy, but the hot side gets slammed like all year round. So they've been needing help over there, but it's hard hiring, right? Like finding good help, good techs.
Yeah, I'd rather have somebody green that we can teach.
Yes,
everything
that's what I've heard.
And no bad habits, because especially from a woman's standpoint.
and the angle that we're coming from, because we're trying to present like. We're trying to, do lots of photos, do digital invoicing, like
you have things done a certain way that you guys, that's how you guys work. And so how did you guys get in, or how did you start Mechanical Environments, your company?
Well, I was getting frustrated with my sales position. And then, of course, I work with contractors every day. So I had multiple contractors trying to hire me.
Mhm.
And eventually I had an offer that I couldn't really say no to.
Like as a tech or
Sales
what?
and operations for them.
Oh, okay.
So, I left my sales job at the distribution house, went and worked for a company that was trying to be an all-in-one stop shop for building cannabis facilities. And so I was helping run the HVAC division. And very quickly, I unearthed a lot of nonsense because it wasn't being ran like a business very well.
Mm.
The guy I went to work for was fired very quickly. And I called Matt and was like, I need you to come run this company because now I'm the smartest one here. So how? Like, I need your help.
Yeah. Because we were associated with the general contractor for 2 years. We were doing the same kind of work that we're doing, but we were trying to do it across multiple states, right? Like going to Michigan to build projects and have employees across, different regions. And it ended up being a little bit more than the GC, wanted to carry, right? They came from framing, grew up to GC to also include multiple trades. And after a few projects realizes that they didn't really want to continue owning all the trades. So Mechanical Environments was born as a spin-off when they wanted to step back, but we'd spent the last 2 years developing customer relationships, and things like that. So
yeah, the clients and everybody was already there and they had no idea we didn't own the company already. So
we've been in this space coming up on 4 years, but
coming up on 3
time.
That happens to me too.
Yeah.
But where Mechanical Environments was started a little later, so it's fun.
So that came out of there. And you guys specifically do like cannabis facilities, growth rooms, flower rooms, all that?
Yeah. So just cannabis. So indoor ag, and dispensaries. We'll do the dispensaries for our customers too. So.
And was that the kind of work that you guys were doing for that other company? Okay, so that's how you kind of fell into it?
Yeah.
Well, they were trying to build these facilities, but then once all these facilities were up, there were growers all over like, hey, can anyone service this equipment? So a lot of people just don't do service, which is crazy, mind-boggling to me.
So they put in the equipment or whatever, but they don't service it?
They just don't service it.
Yeah.
So there'd be facilities all over like, will anybody please come help me? So there was a big void. There's a big need.
Yeah. And
even while we were building, we're like, hey, we're going to take care of all of these facilities. Like this is the real market, like chasing around new, like as a state comes online, they legalize cannabis. There's like, quick, go build. You know what I mean? You make your money real fast and then that dries up and you got to get to the next state. But maintaining these facilities that have been built are going to be a much longer,
of course,
draw. So
we're actually not like us. We're not in the install construction side. We're more service because there's a big need down here in the restaurants. And I'm pretty good at what I do. I like to think, but my dad is, like I said, the cooking equipment, and there's a dire need for that side too, where he gets actually called a lot to go 4, 5, 6 hours out, and they're like, we'll pay you whatever, we just need you out there because there's no good techs out there. Like they have fryers and things that are down and they can't be because the fast food chain can't close down. So it's crazy that you guys, well, I mean, it's good for you guys, you got a lot of work, you filled in that void, but that's crazy that there wasn't much service out there for that.
Well, and we hear so many horror stories from our customers too. Like we just started working with somebody new and they were literally to the point where they were going to make their techs wear body cameras because they didn't trust anything that was happening.
See, I heard that. I don't think I've talked to you guys about that, but I heard that, and it reminded me because after, like, we started picking up work a few years ago from different restaurants and stuff, and they were getting screwed over before by other companies, right? They were getting billed for visits that were non-existent, or there was one that was like, we paid for refrigerant every month. They kept putting it in, and they never they never worked on it or anything. And yeah, we've had to deal with different things that they come up with. Body cam is a bit extreme, but signing in and out, checking in with somebody, or there was one that I had to make a phone call, and it was like I think it tracked my location or something, but phone call, sign in and out, call when you leave, call when you get there. And right now we're using some websites that allow us to do that now on the web. And there's another one that they made us download an app to do like photos, and I can't upload a photo. I have to actually take a photo while I'm there. It won't let me upload.
Wow.
Yeah, it has to be on site. So we've dealt with that. At first, we're kind of like, oh, what is this? But it's because customers get screwed over a lot. There's a lot of bad apples out there.
Yeah. Well, cannabis, these guys had a big target on their back. It's called the green tax, right? Where somebody would be like, oh, it's cannabis, we're going to charge 3 times more, just because these guys they must be making all this money. Yeah. And there was a time where that was true, like when it first came out and cannabis was worth $1 bajillion. Mm-hmm. But this is now Colorado's 10 years into this. Like this market is maturing, it's course correcting. Like you don't make these $1 bajillion profits anymore, so things are getting tighter and tighter. So when people come in and, try to just make all this money off these cannabis guys, it leaves like a real sour taste, like they just have a ton of equipment that's been abused and they have service for days, so they just, they've been taken advantage of many times where people are just trying to kind of come in and get in, get out, and make their money fast. Yeah.
And I've heard that too, because they're like probably with residential where like they see a rich house or like a big house, oh, we're going to charge more or whatever. But it's like, we get the customers that we get because we charge, the same for everybody. We are out there as quickly as we can. We treat everybody the same. So like, that's our the way we do things, and, customers appreciate that. And it blows my mind when people do stuff like that, because you're making the quick buck. You're making, you might make a lot that day, whatever it is, but returning customers is far more valuable because they're going to keep you busy all year round.
Yeah. And that's the fundamental idea, is like do good work and they'll keep you coming back.
Like we don't do any advertising. Everything's word of mouth for us because our customers appreciate us so much. And even in the beginning, we had to retrain our customers because, again, it was a market where it was throw money at it. Well, just replace this unit. Like, no. Let's clean it. It just needs a good cleaning. It's dirty because you guys haven't been running filters in it. Like, it doesn't need replaced.
Yeah, we have that too. Like where I go and fix things, and it's like, I tell people, go ask like whoever's operating the equipment. Like for me, it's like the cooks or whatever it is, and like start a conversation, see where they tell you. They'll tell you when it started acting up and what it's doing and what it's supposed to do and all that. And it's a good way to start when you get a new customer. But they love to just tell you like, hey, just tell them to get me a new equipment or this and that. I'm like, well, let me look at it first. Let me work on it. I might just need a cleaning or a new part, whatever it is, because that's how I make my money, right? Because like I said, we don't do a lot of installs or new stuff. We do change outs when we need to, but it has to be like pretty rundown to where we don't want to, or we recommend it. But if it's repairable, I'll get in front of it and I'll spend the day there and try and fix it.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we are.
Do you have a lot of the like humidizers or built-in dehu into your package units down there?
No, we don't deal with any humidity control as far as like what we work on. But we don't do hospital. We don't do chillers or anything like that for them, but we work in their kitchen. So like I said, I'm doing a lot of refrigeration work. The AC is kind of like the added bonus because, while we're there, they might have us check the AC or whatever.
That's great. That's the niche part is what makes business a lot easier.
It's just like with you guys, I was going to bring up, you guys niched down and you guys basically only do, like what we said, the cannabis facilities, the growth rooms.
It makes a huge difference. Like the other day we were listening, Jay was talking about how when he goes into a facility, he just stinks for the rest of the day, which is totally true. But what helps is if you're, taking care of the same clientele, people understand, and their understanding of one another's needs, like in a restaurant parallel, like if you went to another restaurant, you smelled like a deep fryer, be like, hey, I was at a deep fryer. You'd be like, sounds good. But if you tried to go to Mrs. Jones's house, reeking like the back of McDonald's, she'd have a problem. So like having the same clientele lets us, like, everyone understands more of what we're going through, but it helps us prioritize, so like we don't have a little old lady who needs heat who's going to go in front of all the gardens. That's not going to happen, right? Whoever has like the hottest grow room is going to get the priority, and everybody in the mix understands that need. They all have grow rooms that if it gets hot there, they want priority service. So they're more lenient to, like understanding that another grow needs our help more than them at this moment, because one day it'll be them. So catering to an industry helps a lot.
Yeah, and we deal with that too, like the priority thing, because if somebody calls for an AC, that can wait versus somebody that has a freezer down and
Yes.
product is thawing out, or they're going to lose a lot of money there. So like you said, like we niche down, and it helps us a lot because I can focus on similar equipment, right? I can have my best truck stock, just for that kind of equipment, the stuff that I see every day. I see the same brands for the most part. And I can, like I said, focus on just kitchen equipment. I see this every day. I can work on it. I can be efficient. I can be good at what I do. And it's not a bad thing. I know a lot of people like to be a jack of all trades that does everything. At first, it was too much work, way in over our head, and it wasn't being profitable. Not like it is now, to where we can be picky. That's kind of one of the things that I tell people. Like, if you want to, you can get into a specific area of this trade and still make a boatload of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The bad thing about Colorado cannabis, though, the market, no two facilities are the same. So we don't see the same equipment everywhere. We might be working on a chiller one day. We might be working on residential splits or, custom built package units the next.
So there's no familiarity with those. It's all based on what they, I guess, thought was best.
There's familiarity in that, like, they're all tuned to be as most latent removal as possible.
Yeah.
So, like, they're all doing a similar job. But yeah, like, there's not just everybody does chillers. Like, no, there's, especially in Colorado here, where we're a little bit older of a market, it was the black market goes live, so there's a lot of like plywood and wood and pond tarp. And at the very beginning, it was really rough, right? A lot of
5-ton residential splits,
plants on the floor, no drainage, just go, go, go. Because the first wave of investors were there to make their money real fast and bounce, and like, so there have been facilities built since. There have been facilities that have been remodeled. There have been total teardowns and rebuilds. So you have all across the spectrum of like places with just mini splits all over the place, places with custom built, package units, places with chillers and air handlers. Like, it depends on when it was built, who it was built by, and like, what did the investing group care about? Because a lot of people are just like, get it done as cheap as possible, as fast as possible. And other people like, this is my mothership. I'm going to grow weed here for 1,000,000 years. Please make it as absolutely nice as possible.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. So there's different, like you said, chillers, split systems, like a variety of equipment that you guys see.
Yeah.
Jay had asked if you guys use the condensate from the dehumidifiers for the plants.
So we only have one facility that's doing that. California is starting to require the grows to start utilizing that condensate water, just because the amount of it is crazy, right? Like, they just throw all the condensate down the drain. So these cannabis grows, they'll water in, like, what's the per plant average?
2 liters max, which is like 4.2 pints
per plant per day. So it's not uncommon for them to water in like 1,000 gallons or 1,200 gallons per day, going into these rooms. And then a plant is only going to keep about 2% of the water you give it, right? It goes through the roots, up the shoot, and then it's evaporated out the leaf. And that's how it moves nutrients, right? It's just constantly evaporating moisture into the air. So that means you put 1,000 gallons in and the plant's going to keep 2% of that. The rest of that is all going to be recondensed in the form of condensation, from dehumidifiers, ACs.
Yeah.
And it all goes down the drain, because they can.
I think it's going to come though to where they have to reclaim it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're starting with like RO water, where they're taking city water, they're pulling absolutely everything out of it so it's clean as possible, and then adding their nutrients to it. So a lot of it is in infrastructure, right? Like not many places have a underground tank to collect all of that water. Like how do you get it all back, to the processing place, like the central water room? So it's going to be coming more and more and more in the next few years as the cost of water rises, as they're forced to do it, really. Like,
I mean, we've got one client who's paying for water rights right now, so he is working on a reclamation system.
Yeah, that sounds way better than dumping it. But I guess, yeah, because Jay's from Canada, so he said that all of his do that up there. I guess he was wondering if you guys had seen that.
Yeah, it's fresh. Like California earlier this year started imposing, that it has to be done. So some of our multi-state operators are starting to do it in California and looking at ways to start to implement it back in Colorado. So it's coming. It just wasn't required, and nobody spent the money, except for we have one facility where all of the condensate drains run to a giant tank, and there's a small waterfall of constant, water, and then they pump that back through their reverse osmosis system and water it back to the plants. I mean, before mechanical environments, I was doing light commercial HVAC, so I was doing a lot of restoration work, a lot of retrofits, things like that. So turning over strip malls to be new tenant finishes, all like.
Okay, so then you said light commercial, right?
Yeah.
So you came from that, and right now, just like listening to you guys, you have to know a lot about these plants and how that works, right? How they, like you explained about the whole water thing, the 2% and everything like that. Like, was that a lot of information to take in from switching over, like from light commercial? I don't know if you did just HVAC work. Was that a lot to take in or learn?
Well, we didn't tell Matt's full backstory.
Okay.
Yes, I actually got into HVAC from cannabis, and then kind of full circle return, is that I had a unit that was running all year round and making a lot of noise, and it was a problem. So before my HVAC experience, I got online and was Googling anything I could do to fix my own air conditioner, and I was outside in the middle of winter with a vacuum cleaner trying to clean the coils, and eventually had to call the guy, and he shows up and he's like, "You did what? Right? You did what to this unit? Like, do you want a job? Would you like a real job?" So I got into HVAC, from a garden experience, but then, had been more in, restoration, like kind of walked away from it. And then when Megan called and was like, "Hey, would you like to be the vice president of this company? And let's just go solve all these cannabis problems, because
you're the only one I know that actually knows cannabis and is not an idiot contractor. So like, please come save me."
That could be fun.
That's awesome. That's a cool story there. Then you started on in that cannabis industry, but you were trying to fix your own equipment, and then that's how you got your foot in the door, basically, into HVAC.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's awesome.
But from my aspect, I didn't know anything about cannabis, really. So I have had to learn a lot and, be able to run these load calculations for these guys based off of everybody's unique conditions and how they're growing. So
is that another thing that you guys see, improper, like load calculations or sizing of the equipment, where you guys service?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Most of these facilities were built by somebody who just, stamped what somebody said. No thought or anything was put into it for the most part. Because a lot of times when a new customer, calls us and we're walking their facility, well, let's talk about your problems, whatever. Well, let's run some quick load calculations, just the basics. And we can pretty quickly tell them that they're short on sensible cooling.
It depends on who.
That's something that I need to work on, because I see that a lot too. The whole, like, either improper sizing or just bad installation.
Yeah, that too.
As we get a lot of cold spots, hot spots, and I'm like, why are there 10 vents in the back area that nobody occupies, but the kitchen only has like 3 vents. Like
right.
a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, we see loads too much cooling, too little cooling. Like it's just not really defined well by the engineers, right? So it can come from a lot of different places. Like oftentimes people they'll build a school and then they'll try to build a cannabis facility and be like, this seems like enough cooling,
Yeah.
But like really the simple of it is if the grower puts it in, we'll take it back out. So if you're going to put in 1,000 gallons of water a day, we're going to give you the dehumidification to remove 1,000 gallons of water a day. If you're going to put 1,000,000 watts worth of lighting in here, we're going to have enough sensible cooling to battle 1,000,000 watts worth of lights back out. And then a lot gets lost in like equipment duration. When your load says you need 5 tons of sensible, doesn't mean you need a 5-ton unit. It means you need 5 tons of sensible, so we see loads wrong that way. But nowadays, these buildings that were built for high pressure sodium, so the old school lights that got hot, are being pulled out and LEDs are going in.
Okay.
So these facilities that were designed for huge sensible loads are now filled with LEDs, and now they're all oversized, for the low sensible that's in there now. And it's shifted to a heavy like dehumidification latent removal load that once was only almost purely sensible, so it's all over the board.
So you guys not only service, but you got to correct a lot of the issues due to that, like sizing or humidity, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I think a good service process starts with setting decent expectations. Like if we roll in and somebody's like, hey, I have this tiny little unit that doesn't work good, you could really quickly run the math and be like, dude, you need like 12 of those. Like before you go spending time fixing this little unit, like let's talk about what's even possible in this room. Because, the loads that we're running aren't that complicated. Because like I said, it's like, what are your lights? Add them up. What are you watering in? Add them up. And let's see if it matches the data plate to what you have here, because.
Yeah, duration on the dehumidifiers is always a big surprise to most of our cultivators.
Yeah, there's that.
Because dehumidifiers are rated usually at 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 60% humidity, and nobody grows at that. So what they think they're getting out of these units that they were sold isn't actually what they're getting. So we have to break their little hearts and be like, well, you actually, you're getting about half the capacity. Yes, that says it's a 300 pint per day unit, but you're really getting about 150 pints at the temperatures and humidities you run.
Oh, gotcha.
Dehumidification is a huge portion.
Yeah.
And like what's funny, so Colorado, it's part of what makes it different than normal HVAC here, right? Because we are in 500 CFM per ton. This is dry. Everyone is humidifying the air. But then inside a building where they're dumping thousands and thousands of gallons on the floor every day, humidity is an absolute problem. So these units are running more like they would be, in Central Florida or somewhere with a much stickier climate. So as a service tech, you got to kind of remember that like this isn't, Colorado inside this building. Inside this building, it's Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we got to adjust our sensible latent loads and things like that.
So somebody had asked about humidity control. We've talked a little bit about that. And they also asked about odor management. Is there any odor management, or do you guys just have to deal with it?
Yes. That's
everybody's required to have an odor mitigation plan, each facility per the county they're in.
Yeah. Cannabis is funny because they stuck a lot of regulations on cannabis that people wish could be put on other things, right? Because it's a new industry. So odor control was a huge one where they're like, this is going to smell. Everybody's going to have to really control their odor. So the tool of choice is the carbon filter, right? It looks like a small water heater. It's round. It's got activated carbon in it. And you pull air through it. It absorbs, right, the VOCs, and then you can discharge the air outside. But odor mitigation is more a dance in government compliance than it is on making sure it doesn't smell outside. Because they're not like policing that the smell is outside. They're running around and making sure that the plan you submitted that includes 12 fans are being changed on the schedule of the date you submitted on the time you submitted, and that you have the forms for the filters you changed on the days you said you change them. Like, doesn't matter that it doesn't smell outside. It's a dance in, like, you said you do this. We're here to investigate that you did what you said you'd do. You know, that's standard odor compliance. You can have a neighbor start to, you know, like call, like, and have the state come investigate odor problems. But they're at that point, they're just going to kind of go up the same chain, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then maybe try to figure out what's going on. But most of it is a dance in, like, you said you'd have the filters, do the filters.
But there's often multiple facilities next to each other. So who really is causing the smell at the end of the day? You know?
Yeah. Is that part of like is that part of what you guys do for maintenance? Like the filters and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll change out the big old, because they're big carbon filters. So once they get soaked up with that moisture, they are hard to move. Like, and it's not very safe for cultivators to be up on ladders trying to do that.
Yeah, some of these carbon filters, like, they could be, if it's a 12-inch carbon filter, 12 inches is the inner diameter, outside's probably like 18, 24, and they can be 4 feet tall, you know, and weigh close to 100 pounds going in. And then they'll absorb moisture as well as VOCs. So they'll be like 200-300 pounds coming out. So we'll bring the material lift in, you know, and swap them out so that they don't have to like do it on a step stool or whatever cheesy thing they're going to attempt to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I see that all the time. I'm just like, you know, let me, you know, call me, let me do it. Don't get on any high ladders, because we deal with a lot of high ceilings and stuff.
Yeah.
Same.
So do you guys, is maintenance a big part of your business too? Is I don't know if you guys ever get slow, but does that keep you busy as well, the maintenance?
It absolutely keeps us busy. We preach maintenance because these units run 24/7, 365. So, and there's nothing a cultivator loves to do more than pull out a filter. So we clean a lot of equipment.
Well, these guys are on a very predictable schedule. You know, like growing cannabis is repeatable, right? And they clean the room all the time. Like, they kick up a lot of dirt. So if they're not on their filter changes, their equipment's going to need deep cleaning pretty regularly. And then two, some of these facilities are placed in locations where it's like, a lot of them will be next to a concrete plant, or where they're like busting down road waste, or by the highway, or off a dirt road, you know, like they're not where the air is super clean. So a lot of these condenser coils are just like Megan said, that outdoor fan's running all the time, and that concrete plant's crushing all the time, you know, like they're going to get dirty. So
yeah,
if we can talk people into it, it makes a lot of sense to, like, you got 45 units. Let's maybe spread the cost of cleaning these out over the year instead of, you know, here's summer, let's mad dash to clean your roof.
Yeah, because like what I was saying about earlier, that it's like my area is growing a lot. There's a lot of construction. The highway's being completely redone. So I always tell the customers that are closest to it, think about, you know, getting on a maintenance plan that's a little more frequent, because I can already tell you that that those condensers are going to be plugged up. And sure enough, every time I go out there, it can be like 6 months or whatever. And it's like, it's black, you know, when you're washing them out. How often do you guys have to maintain? I don't know if this is considered like, is it critical equipment? Like, I don't know how. I'm assuming, like you said, they run 24/7. They're very, they don't want that to go down at all. So like, how often do you guys have to maintenance these?
It really depends on the customer. We have a lot of the customers who only fix it when it's broke.
Oh,
but
okay.
we have other customers who are, you know, the good customers that you love to work with, that are like, I completely understand the importance of maintenance. We'll schedule it and we'll get on their harvest schedule. So when the room comes down, we'll clean it then, to where we're not having to work over plants and potentially damaging plants because we dropped a tool or something.
Indoor and outdoor is different, right?
Yeah.
So like if we had it our way, we're going to do outdoor inspections, you know, like getting ready for summer, getting ready for winter, right? Same kind of schedule. For indoor airflow wise, these guys, it takes 8 weeks to flower cannabis, right? 8 to sometimes they'll push it to 10 or 12, but there's going to be a week of like resetting the space, right? So they got to bring in all the plants, clean all the tape, you know, clean all the walls, wash everything, So we try to get any of the indoor work done in the dip in their cycle, right? When
Okay.
like the rooms are empty, when they're in cleaning mode, because that's when we tell them like, hey, when's a good time for a new filter? Day one, right? After you just got done cleaning the floor, you kicked up all the dust and debris, and now your filter's totally loaded, like get a freshie in there. So if the unit's in the room, we have to maintenance on a like, when is the room empty? If the equipment is outside, you know, we can do it more on a like, let's get ready for summer.
So it's the same as far as like the customers you get, because we have the customers that are like that, like whenever it breaks, we'll call you, whatever. And then we have some that are more. I think we do like 6 months for the AC equipment. And that's the one that makes us use the app. So it like the app will remind me. They're pretty good about it. And then we have a hospital or a couple of them. I think we're gonna get a few more now, but those they worry about that equipment all the time. So they had us at one point. They had us out there bi-weekly, but now it's like monthly,
Oh.
just to make sure that nothing goes down. Clean the coils. Check on the walk-ins. That a lot of older equipment. We're in the process of changing out some of the old stuff, but it just depends on your customer. But I really like the hospital work. They're very clean. They have us out there pretty often. They're pretty good about maintenance. And then there's some that they've been saying, like there's one chain of this fast food restaurant that's been telling me like, yeah, and it's been like 2 years, like, yeah, we'll get on it. We'll call you out here. We'll get something scheduled. And it's been like 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, well, we're still waiting on that agreement there. But
Right.
every time I get called out to that customer, I kind of already know. I'm like, it's probably just dirty. You're calling me out here for all these different units, and it's just me cleaning them.
Isn't that what Jim Bergman said, right? HVAC, you're just really fancy janitors, right? Because
I guess
equipment
so,
should
right?
only get dirtier over the course of its life. You know, if installed properly, it should only need cleaning.
If installed properly, and then honestly, if it ever breaks down, it's always something real basic, right? You got to check your airflow, and then your electrical. It's hardly ever anything too difficult. The only thing that we have to consider is certain restaurants, like specifically like pizza places that we deal with, their walk-in boxes have a lot of like vegetables, like onions and different things that have acid. So then like those evaporators get eaten over time. And sure enough, you know, if it's an older equipment, I usually check the evap. I do a leak test, and we'll find like little leaks on the ends and stuff. So, but it's like you guys, you got to know what you're cooling, your product, you know, the stuff that you work on. So for you guys, like it's the cannabis, the plants, you got to know how all that works. How is it working in those growth rooms? Because you talked about working over, like, do you guys work over plants often? Like, how careful do you have to be? How is it working? I think I've seen you guys up on like high areas where like you have plants around you. Do you need them to move stuff when you go work? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, all of the above. So a lot of these facilities, when they were built, all they cared about was their canopy space, right? So every square inch, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, canopy. They want a canopy. Equipment is hung as high and tight to the ceiling as possible. Who cares if you can't get a ladder up there to service it, because it's never going to break, right? So
I hate those. Yeah.
we've got some facilities where we have had to like unbolt their benches from the ground to move them to try to get a ladder in. We've got some facilities that have, you know, structural beams that we literally can't move a bench to get in a rack. We have to use scaffolding in some facilities.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
The plants.
And sometimes we just had to be like, we literally can't fix this until the room is harvested so we can like get to this.
Yeah. Plant liability is a dance. Because, you know, at first it'd be like, well, can we wait until there's no plants? You know, like if I don't want to be over your plants if I don't have to be, you know, and they're like, oh, it has to be done now. Like we share a little bit of this, you know, like responsibility for working over the plants. And that's what we do a lot of. Like we try to work with people who are building new facilities or working on their remodel and be like, this is called serviceability, right? That you need an area for your ladder to go, you know, because each facility is created a little different. So
that would be great, because I deal with that a lot too.
Yeah. You know, just trying to get them to see the benefit, because it saves them money on their service ticket anyway. Because if I'm fixing something off a ladder with one hand it's gonna take longer. Like you're gonna have to pay more money, so they get it once they see it. But at the very beginning, when you're looking on a blueprint, be like, oh, I don't care about any of that, so.
Yeah, because I've actually had some that like we go like to do a walkthrough or whatever, like it's a new customer or potential new customer. And there are some that I'm like so glad that they didn't call us, because that equipment is up against a wall and like, how am I going to open this or that? And they put a lot of condensers, like, and then we had some that remodeled recently, and I don't understand this, but like, they're paying for it now. They remodeled these restaurants or fast food chains, and behind the register, they are really adamant about having these small reach-in coolers and freezers that are under counter. Like they really love those, and for some reason they started putting them back to back. And I'm like, the condensers are in the back. You're just like circulating hot air to each compressor. And sure enough, right after they remodeled, one by one, each store, compressor dead, compressor dead, compressor dead.
Yep.
And they refused to listen. So they just, they had us fix the ones that we could. And then they bought new ones because those are kind of cheap for them. And they just put them right back where the previous one died. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have problems later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on our job walks when we're walking a new facility, there's a lot of that where mini split condensers are all blowing into each other. Like, who did this without a stand and no proper drainage?
Oh,
like
yeah.
This is a heat pump. Like, this is going to be an issue. Or like, this is never going to get out of here without a crane, because all these condensers are in this farm that are too close that you can barely even get in there to work on it. Like,
yeah, serviceability, like you said, is a big thing. I wish we had more of that, because like, and I try to be mindful too of like where I'm working, because like it's restaurants, there's cooks and people walking back and forth a lot. So I try not to leave my tools in the way, and stuff like that. And then I do like drop cloths for the food, like the boxes of food in the freezer and stuff. Whenever I have to hose down a coil, stuff like that, we try to take care of them. I'm sure it's nothing like what you guys deal with, that cannabis and stuff. I'm sure that's that's more difficult to work around. But
they're different. I mean, nobody's stepping over me. I will give you that. Like, you got good patience for that. Like it's more.
It took a while.
They'll show you to the back of the room and point and be like, yeah, it's that one, right? Like, do you need a ladder or something? Like, we'll be up front. So you're like in the back corner of the facility on the ladder. Be like, God dang. So working around people is difficult. Like, that's.
I mean, there are occasionally the days where, because a lot of these facilities grow on mobile benches too. So it might be 1 or 2 tiers in a room, but the benches move.
Okay.
So if they might be in there trying to defoliate and, clean up a room, well, we also need to be in there working, but that's their schedule. And like, you called us today, and we're here, and there's only enough room for 1 aisle at a time to be open. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to go work on this unit. When you guys run to lunch, holler at me. We'll come in here. We'll try to knock this out. So there is some planning sometimes like that has to be sorted out. Or, I mean, the light schedules, because a general flower room is going to be 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. And some people's lights might turn off at noon. So I have to be there and out of that room by noon, or I've got to finish up with a green light on.
Mm-hmm. That sounds a lot like what I have to deal with too, because like when they get deliveries or when they're stocking the walk-ins, we have to work around their schedule. Sometimes I have like I said, the hospital that we have, they have a schedule to where their kitchen closes for like, I only have like an hour if I need to do anything, like if I need the space. So yeah, there's a lot of workarounds when you deal with product, because like that's what I always tell people. Like, product is a little different. Like for me, it's refrigeration, like for food and stuff like that. But I've always been intrigued by the other side of it, right? The process cooling and all that, where it's like flowers, or it could be like a manufacturing warehouse. All that stuff has to be controlled. It's not for human comfort. It's just for like products and different things. And that's it's another side of HVAC, and it's very lucrative as well.
Yeah, I'd say that well describes where the cannabis space lives, right? Process cooling, means comfort cooling.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of low ambient situations, a lot of humidity. Everybody always thinks their reheat and their humidizers and the carrier units are going to solve all their problems. But I'm like, well, did the manufacturer tell you that only works down to 40 degrees ambient temperature outside? Like, what are you doing about your humidity in the wintertime? Does it always struggle? Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I'm like, well, because somebody promised you a lot that this can't perform. So
we've had to break that to customers sometimes too. It's like, what are you expecting out of this equipment versus, what are you getting out of this equipment, right? It's like sometimes people just sell them what they want to sell them. And like you said, the installers might not answer their phone anymore. They might not be the one servicing it. They don't really care. They just install it and move on to the next one. And then I have to go in there and tell them, because like with the with that one that was put in them back to back, I don't understand that. That's the remodeling. It was the old equipment that was already there and they remodeled. So whatever, that's where they wanted to put it. But I have others that are like pizza restaurants, right? They have the big pizza oven in the middle and then they have an open cooler right in front of it. And I'm like, okay, like you need to keep, because it's like a prep station cooler, right? Where they keep the condiments and there's a door kind of on top that they can close, but they love to leave it open all day. And I have to kind of educate the customer, because I'll even pull up the manual and I'll tell them like, it tells you exactly what the ambient should be. And if it exceeds that, it's going to struggle. It's not going to keep temp. Can you please keep the door closed? It says in the manual, if you're not busy, keep the door closed, right? It's not really a cooler up there. It's just kind of a lot of this stuff you have to put the product in already cold and it just maintains it, right? So a lot of these customers expect a lot of their equipment. They might not know how it works, and you got to educate them on it. And then kind of break the news to them sometimes, right? Like, this is not going to work. We got to change something.
Yeah, we do a lot of educating our customers. And luckily we do have a good, most of our head cultivators are excellent. Like, they really know when there's a problem in their room and are willing to help diagnose along the way. Because we do a lot of troubleshooting over the phone to where they can push the problem off or fix it, remotely sometimes, to where it's not an emergency anymore and it can wait a day or two.
There's a good parallel listening to Pat's podcast. The head cultivator and like a restaurant manager have a similar like set of needs and goals. Like, when can you get me back online? How is it going to work? Like, this is my schedule. I need it back fixed by here. So if the head cultivator is on board, they can buy you some time. They can, like, it's process cooling, but we have a little bit of leeway, right? Because like Megan was saying, the lights are on for 12 hours a day and then they're off for 12 hours a day. So if you can limp along to that 12-hour off period, right, you buy yourself another little bit of time. So like having the cultivation staff being trained enough to like know where the filters are and be willing to like work with you, be like, hey, go over to the room, check the thermostat, like, what's happening? Like, can we get you to this off period, to where it's not like right now, it's as soon as possible still, but it's not like right this second. So
we deal with those calls like on the weekend and stuff. Like you gotta have like a checklist as well. Sometimes, did you check the breaker? Because that's a thing they like to do, right? Well, like for us, they turn off the breaker to the freezer because it's too cold for them and they're trying to stock and this and that. Did you check the breaker? Did you make sure it was on? Also, I kind of have to keep track of the defrost times and stuff like that. Like, how long has it been off? The fans turn off or whatever it is. So there's a little checklist. It's a lot of what we deal with is a lot of customer service as well. People don't realize being able to talk to them over the phone, talk them through some stuff, getting there and having a conversation about what their equipment is doing, what's wrong with it. They'll give you a lot of information. And like you said, like working around, when can you get there and stuff like that. It's a lot of customer service that we have to deal with. And it took me a while to realize that when I started, because I just wanted to get in and out and do my thing and get out of there. But if you take the time to talk to them and build that relationship, that's a big deal too.
Yeah. And luckily we have access to a lot of people's controls. So one of the first things I can do is hop online and be like, well, your sensors in the room are dead. Go replace the battery and then it will cool again, which saves us a lot of time and energy from not having to be on site every time because we can prevent some service calls that way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We try to prevent, nuisance calls. So like we're a little too busy to be like, we want like, calls 24/7. I would like some time off as well. Do you guys work a lot of overtime in your business? Like is every call like an emergency call?
I mean, we work past 5 just about every single day.
Oh, okay.
And usually it's on the weekends to some extent. And even if we aren't in the field, it's, catching up on office stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything's an emergency, but a lot of things have like a tight timeline, where we'll be doing like, hey, we need you to rehang these DHUs or swap out this ductwork, but the room's going to be down for these 3 days, or these 4 days, right? So you got to plan around those 4 days. And that means the service calls that come up, in that window got to get squeezed in. So like not everything's necessarily an emergency, but we're often on like a pretty tight schedule for trying to get a project done when it's convenient for the customer.
A lot of the stuff that you do is technically air conditioning, right? Because you deal with a lot of AC units, and that's year round, right? Whether it's hot outside, cold outside, this is the equipment that you see year round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We might have to shovel our way to a unit, but we're working on the AC. Everybody's got, white, what's the TPU? What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really slick
Yeah,
roofs.
the white roofs. Yeah, we had a ton of them that just redid them recently, and
Oh, it's so bright, isn't it?
yeah, because it's always real sunny here. And one time I forgot my sunglasses, and I was like just up there with like a headache the whole time.
Right?
Oh, and the sunburns from the fresh roofs, like it gets so intense up there.
Yeah, I try to keep covered as much as I can, just because there's the white roofs too, and then like here it gets pretty hot and the sun is pretty intense, so just got to cover up.
The number one conversion is getting a unit ready to run for wintertime is how are you going to maintain the head pressure when it starts to go below 65? So we use a ton of like the ICM product line. They make great universal head pressure controllers. But like the bare minimum is the little peanut switch, where you just screw it on the liquid line and it's going to bang on, bang off at like 300 to 400.
Yeah.
And that'll cycle your fan. But those drift, right? Those that go bad. I don't know if you run into those failing at all, but they'll start, instead of opening at 3 and closing at 4, they'll start to open at 350, close at 450, and kind of work their way out of range. So like
I've had that more with mechanical ones. I've actually I stock the peanut ones just because they're easy to stock and they get me out of a bind on the weekend. But I don't think I deal with more of the ones that go bad on me are the low pressure switches. So like like when it pumps down and stuff like that, because it's usually on walk-in freezers.
Because some facilities like chuck in a truck, set that up there, and they're like, yeah, it just doesn't work good in the winter. Like, well, it could work way better in the winter. Because you see different problems, right? If you have no low ambient kit and it's really cold outside, your liquid line will freeze, right? You'll freeze in the opposite direction of a typical freeze up. So there are some funny problems, but once you start to fix them again and again and again, they get trivial, as I'm sure you know.
Have you guys ever like done any damage to some of the plants and stuff?
Oh yeah, I snapped some branches this week. With a piece of ductwork.
How does that conversation usually go with the customer?
Honestly, they usually don't care. They're just so happy that you're there fixing their problems. Because even I was like, well, give me a ballpark of what you think and I'll take it off your invoice. Like, because it's my own fault. I did it. But at the same time, they're like, we don't care. I'm like, okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know.
Is it hard not to break anything, like damage the plants?
Some facilities are harder than others because some of those rows are so tight together and
like you're bound to hit them.
There's no way to not hit them half the time. Like it really is like, because again, we listened to Jay and he was talking about how you kind of have to like swim through the plants. And it truly is like you have to constantly be pushing plants out of the way to get to some locations. Like you're lucky if you can get a ladder between most of the racks.
It comes down to the cultivator, because the cannabis plants would just be flopping all over the floor if it wasn't for the tight plastic trellis. and the trellis comes on a roll, and they put like 3 or 4 layers in as the plants grow, and they like, so some facilities are on it and the plants are in their little like trellised, jail, and it's not a problem. Other facilities have like the 1 layer of trellis and everything's barely hanging on, and every time you move something the plant's like so some facilities have better forethought, and other facilities you just can't move around without a plant threatening to like fall over. So it's all
my biggest fear is like, when they're because like they make certain like, I don't know, like coleslaw, or they have macaroni or pre-made something in the coolers. My main thing is like, can you please move it? If not, I just got to be extra careful. I don't want a screw to fall in there or something crazy, or any of my tools. So I'm always cautious about like my surrounding, where I'm at. Try not to one knock anything over, but also just not have anything fall in the food, because that is a whole other lawsuit that I don't want to have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and being aware of your surroundings is a good point for sure, because
again, it's something that I had to teach my brother when he started, because like he would throw the extension cord everywhere and have all the equipment in the way, and I'm like, dude, can you leave a pathway? Like, there's that too. I don't want anybody tripping.
Well, it's usually for our own safety on our aspects, because there's your unit's right here, but there's also a fan right here, and then here's a sprinkler pipe where you might set that off 2 inches behind you, because you have this little area that you can barely fit in to access your unit. So it's usually for our own safety that we need to be aware of.
In the hospitals, wherever I had to braze, like that's why I have the press tool now in case I need it for those situations. In case I need to braze, I mean, for one, they have a whole fire permit thing that they have at the hospitals, but everywhere I had to braze, because all the condensers on the reach-ins are on the top of the unit. There was always like a sprinkler system right there. Had to be extra careful.
Yeah, that's worth the press tool right there.
Absolutely.
Do you have the RLS press tool, or?
Yeah, I have the RLS one. So I got like a little pack out that has all the couplings in it. So this is a typical day in your industry, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to see because there's no plants on that rack, but
for the audio listeners, this is Megan in a Tyvek at the top of a ladder, working on a unit just out of reach.
Squeezed between a unit and that fan. Like my back is pushing that fan out of the way.
I was gonna say the fan is right there.
And it's that ladder is as close to a rack as it can, so you can see where. And I'm just trying to open the unit enough to see if the drain's clogged, because they had a leaking issue. So I'm barely even needing to open the unit, let alone get to the blower cabinet, which is inaccessible. And then if you look in the background, you can see how high some of those dehumidifiers are too.
Oh yeah, we have this or a similar issue, because the reason I like to do commercial, or it's like light commercial, is because either it's going to be the worst part of it, or that I thought the worst part of it was a reach-in or the prep coolers in the kitchen, right? Like where you said I might get stepped over and stuff like that. I got real comfortable with that after a couple of years. I was fine with that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to be either there or on the roof, right? Because everything's on the roof. RTUs, walk-in condensers and stuff. We started getting customers that are in like plaza, little plaza malls, strip malls. And there's a few of them that have these air handlers suspended in the ceiling, but it's the you got to move over the ceiling tiles to even get to that attic area. And I'm like, my God, I have to go up there to check the drain lines. And, one of them is right over the register. And I'm like, how the hell do I set up a ladder here? And, and I think one of the customers was like, can we change these out and this and that? And I'm like, look, I'm going to fix it as much as I can. We'll see after, because I would probably pass off the work, just because like there's so much stuff. It's kind of like this. There's so much beams, pipes, different things that you have to be, or that are in front of the unit. I can barely even get to the drain lines half the time. And then they have all this communication wire now, because they have a room full of like routers and whatever it is, because they do all this online ordering systems and stuff like that. And all that is just laid there right on, or like next to the units and stuff like that. So I thought I had it made because I was like, oh yeah, rooftop units, this and that, and then I have to deal with this too.
Yeah, I'll take a rooftop unit any day
Everything goes slower on top of a ladder like that.
because you can see how much like Unistrut is everywhere to hold the lights and all the power and drains and.
So this is after they've, like you said, they have the room cleared, or is this a new?
Yeah. So this
Okay.
is room's been cleared and we're hanging a DU for them in a serviceable location.
That's a air handler coil, 6 months old.
No filters.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's an evac coil.
Is that something you see? Because I have a customer, a chain, that they always forget about the filters.
Well, we often hear the line like, well, it wasn't working really good with the filters, so we took it out.
Oh, they take them out.
Yeah.
If they're using filters. We have a lot of customers who refuse to use filters too. Like, well, your coil becomes your filter then.
So then they just depend on the cleaning.
Yeah, until it gets so bad it breaks down, and then you got to force it cleanings on some of them. Others they'll clean preemptively. This particular facility, like they spray, so the plants need nutrients both in the water and on the leaves. So they'll just go spray all sorts of nonsense, like molasses-based things, compost tea, like ground up fish meals, like some of the just gross. And like it's for the plants, but like this is where it ends up, and this is what a lot of the coils look like, where, they just need deep cleaning, good filtration, like the controls need cleaned up. But like the pink slime, that's the same pink that loves to live in the condensate drains. It'll just take hold in these, like, if it gets a good environment, it'll just start going.
Oh, electrical that gets ran underneath units to where we can never access a unit. This is mild compared to some of them, but it's like that's marooned up there now.
Yeah, like we had one that I didn't get the call. One of my guys did, and he managed to work through it. But it was one of those suspended ones that I was talking about, and it needed a blower motor. And I was thinking back to it, like when we got the call in, I'm like, how the hell are we gonna do that? But he had help, but he managed. It took him a day just to get that changed out, but he made it work.
I just did one of those the other day where I had to move the ceiling tile supports. I had to move electrical. I had to move the unit support slightly just to barely get the blower motor out. It took an extra hour just moving stuff and being on top of a ladder to get it out.
And then I have one, and I've dropped ceiling tiles, and I get so upset when I drop them because then they break. I have a customer that their chain has drive-through ice machines, and I hate them because like I have to go in before they open, and that's my only window because obviously it's a fast food place. Our drive-through is busy all the time, and the ice machine is right by the window. And they started putting in units, or they have, I guess, like when they're remodeled, from the counter to the ceiling, that's the unit. I cannot remove any panels, and it's up against the wall too. So the last one that I had to repair, of course, the solenoid, the hot gas bypass. There's one that's easy access on the left side because that's the side that's open, but no, it had to be the one on the right side, right? So I had to remove all the ceiling stuff, just to open up the top panel, kind of shift over the unit, and then like kind of like squeeze in there because I didn't want to take the unit down and do my repair. But man, like they don't think about the service, most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, we run into that most on the older style dehumidifiers where we need to drop a dehumidifier because the way it's hung, we can't get the panels off to access what we need to. Like that's a dehumidifier. I'm putting on a name there because we name everything so we can track it and even know what we began to work on. Because
that was another question I had. Like you guys deal with like a lot of equipment just at one customer, right?
Yeah, there might be 50 pieces of HVAC equipment, let alone the 50 dehumidifiers on site, plus their humidifiers, plus their filtration, like
and sensors.
So are these ever labeled, or is that something you guys are doing on your own?
Very rarely is a facility labeled.
Yeah.
Like
I deal with like 5 RTUs and I get upset when they're not labeled.
We actually just had a facility where somebody printed out all the labels and all of the units say RTU1.
RTU1.
Like
Every single unit.
18 units on the same roof. Like, what is this?
Like, don't worry, I'll make you some labels for my
Yeah.
own sanity.
You guys cut up your own labels and do your own thing there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I highly recommend it for anybody who's trying to figure out how to label equipment. Just because if you're going to bring in like a spray can and stencils, you got to worry about the overspray and all that jazz. And like buying little numbers can be outrageously expensive. Like it'll take you an hour to figure out how to use a vinyl cutting machine. And then you'll have the perfect size, super professional labels on everything. Because often a service call at a new facility will start with like, yeah, the DHU was leaking. Like, okay, which one? Like, the one in the corner.
I think it was this room. Okay, well, there's 4 in this room. Do you have any idea?
It saves time on like what unit it was. It's definitely number 3. But then the people who have been most appreciative are like the accounting departments.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they'd be like, hey, we've been paying bills at this facility for 10 years. We never knew, that we had this many units, or that the number 4 is always the broken one, right?
Yeah.
Open them up to do asset tracking that they were never able to do before.
There's 3 tiers in this photo, if you look closely.
3 levels of plants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
And these systems, so they're adapted pallet racking, right? So it's a similar like steel rack system, but they're sitting on a track, and so they can move like to the left and to the right. So the whole room will be loaded with tiers like this, and there will only be one walkway that moves between each rack, right? So you'll like slide the racks over to move the aisleway throughout the room, just to maximize space. In markets where cannabis is licensed by square footage, then it's the name of the game is getting as much square footage as possible. Some markets are licensed by plant count, and that's more towards like how big or how many plants I can get into a space. So those markets are less like cramming every square footage in because you can only have so many plants. So like you will see a little bit of finesse between market to market because they are not federally all one
Regulated.
Thing. Each state is its own little deal with its own little laws and its own little nuances.
Pull up another picture. I see your little your shovel here.
Yeah, had to shovel our way to some snow. To a unit.
That's the wintertime service kits. That's the field piece charging blanket that goes on top of the unit, and that builds artificial head pressure to let you start setting your refrigerant. But it has a lower limit.
I've only read about this stuff because I don't have to deal with that over here. It's like we do deal with low ambient issues. That is another call that I get sometimes when I know it's like a fairly new system or a change out that was done recently. I'm like, when did they charge this up, right? If they charge it up in the summer, they probably only went by, their pressures or whatever. Because like the walk-ins and stuff here, they have receivers, but they probably didn't check the receiver level or anything like that. Right. They probably didn't accommodate for the winter charge. So I get called out, and I know when it happens because our weather's very back and forth. It could be like 70 one day, and then it could be like 50, 40 the next day. And if I get a call that day and I'm like, well, was it working the other day? And they're like, it was working perfect yesterday, but now that it's like 40 degrees out, it's not working. So then we go check the charge, and if it's a fairly new unit, I'm just gonna, I'll do a quick leak test, but I'm gonna account it to somebody didn't know how to do the charge on that.
Yeah. And we even tell our customers, like, it's charged for now, but when it warms up, we should absolutely double check the charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in places that like it fluctuates like that.
Yeah. So here's a fun situation. This is how tall
that looks like the ice machine that I was talking about. It's like up to the ceiling.
That's a dehumidifier. That's how they are in most facilities. But this is also a 3-tiered rack, but this is a very high.
These ones don't move, so
yeah,
they
don't
be
move.
A little taller than the moving ones.
But like having to lay on top of the racking to be able to service this unit and change out its board.
Yeah, that doesn't look fun.
No, especially knowing it's however many feet to the ground on the other side there. There's a little catwalk built on the one side, but not the other side.
Well, how many tiers up was this?
That's 3 tiers.
Well, that
you're
would
on
be sitting
you're on the high
third.
one.
She'd be on the 4th tier technically. There's 3 tiers
Oh,
of
yeah.
plants, and that would be like the 4th tier.
Oh yeah, so you're on the high one.
Yes. Got to get in weird spots. So, and this is a prime example of how hard it is to work on some of these units. Like, I'm working on a different unit that I was able to capture this photo, but we're both, you know, as high as we can get on ladders. We can barely reach the unit. We had to unbolt trays to be able to get a ladder into some of these rows. But it's like all the electrical, all the lights, all the power. Like,
So you guys are on high ladders a lot of the times.
yes.
I can't imagine that.
It depends on the facility, you know, and we try to, facilities like this, we try to encourage them to have the ladders that are going to fit in their space, you know, because it is such like only this one ladder fits in this one, you know, like corner just right. All the equipment got put in with a man lift before the trays were in. It all looked good, you know, at rough in stage. But now that all the trays and the light grid went in after it, now it's marooned up in cyberspace.
So do you guys ever have to gown up when you go into these places?
It depends on the facility, but yeah, like the picture of the Tyvek, some people have us wear Tyvek, some people have us wear like lab coats. Others just have us douse ourselves in rubbing alcohol to try to kill anything we're bringing in. But we also try not to go from facility to facility unless we absolutely have to.
So for the day, you're going to be spending that at one.
We try to.
Yeah, it depends. You know, especially like flower room to flower room, they don't like that. You know what I mean? So you can also go from the flower room of one to the roof of another is not as big a deal, or like, you know, just staying aware because it's bugs, you know, like little tiny bugs.
I never would have thought of that.
Every facility runs their like operation different. Right?
Yeah, so it's up to them. It's not something that's like standard or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Some facilities have no, you know, like change of outfit, but they'll have little like basically a puddle that you step in before each room to like get stuff off your shoes. But other facilities have like Tyvek and hairnets, and you know, it just depends on what they want to do.
Yeah. So this photo here too, that's a fabric duct install on the wall in that black there.
Oh, okay. That's a duct.
Yeah, that's all ducting. So that's one drop with 4 fingers on it. Because there's not a lot of room. We designed that actually with fabric air because again, there's not enough room for duct work, and where are we going to put ducting? So this is a smaller room, so we were able to put it on the side walls, and it still work with their egress pathways because it's collapsible.
That is really interesting. I've never seen that fabric duct work.
Yeah. Fabric duct it's pretty cool. There's applications where it's great, especially in like where you're at, like light commercial. I could see a lot of applications because it weighs like nothing. You know, when you're trying to get ductwork up in a situation on a man lift where like the spiral is going to be a problem, you know, like.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But this job in particular, they wanted to be able to work in this gap, and they can lean against the fabric and it'll just crush, you know, like it'll just get out of the way. It came out really nice.
Yeah. I mean, it can be taken down and washed too, which is really good for keeping the rooms clean. If there's a problem in a room.
Is this you lifting?
Yeah. That's the Genie CO2 lift. Highly recommend if anybody's.
Oh man, I was just talking to my dad about that lift. Yeah.
Yeah. Well worth every penny.
I would recommend the 12 unless you need the 18. Just so like the working platform of the 12 when it's low is like closer to waistline. The working platform of the 18 footer is closer to like shoulder line. So when you're getting people to load a heavy object on it, like the 18 can be a little troublesome.
And you guys have videos here too?
Yeah, this is like walking through.
That's,
you know, that's the trellis really is the difference maker there. You know, like they did a good job on all that plastic netting, but if that was slacked on, there'd be just
plants.
Okay, what do we got here?
Those are 3 dehumidifiers.
Each one is what,
320 pints per day on each one of those.
Yeah,
and this
so
room
1,000 pints per day worth of dehumidification.
Yeah, actually, that's if you look at the next picture, that's the same area as well, and you can see there's 3 more hung in the air there, and this is just outside for one room. So this room in particular has 17 dehumidifiers, either ducted into it like these or in the room. Because there was no very limited room inside the room, we had to duct them in. Because they built a room that was 2 tiers and didn't plan for the dehumidification. Like that room in particular, 40 tons of cooling and 17 dehumidifiers. Just one room.
They like in that room in particular, they were bummed because they had to give up a rack for that space. Like, you guys, like, you'll be okay.
So I think you.
Yeah, if it was up to them, they just fill it up with
absolutely
everything.
Absolutely.
It's usually the fire like when you go through plan review, it'll be the fire chief. Like, nope, this egress, sprinklers, like, get all this out of here. Like, the problem is that they're just built really tight, so you got to get your hand like in the gaps and crevices and peel off the foam insulation to get to the sensors and stuff. Like, you know, if you can work on big equipment, you can work on these all day long. They're really just more annoying than they are difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell people with the reach and stuff, the coolers that I see in the kitchens. I'm like, they're not that hard to work on. It's just the space that you have, and then like we mentioned earlier, you know, it gets crowded and stuff. Well, Megan, obviously you've been in the trade for a while now. You actually service this equipment, right? You work on this stuff. You've learned to. Well, you said you had DIY stuff that you did before, right? Or you said that they mentioned that you were good with your hands or mechanically, and you got into HVAC after that.
Yeah, so I've always been willing to learn new trades and things. So like on my house, like I teach myself to tile or solder to do new water lines, like install kitchen cabinets, flooring, whatever it is. Like I'll teach myself to do it.
You were a trade person at heart.
Yeah, I mean, growing up too, like I helped my dad with everything. Like we didn't hire anything out. Like if the house needed a new roof, we were roofing it. We needed new windows, we were putting in windows. So I had the privilege of being the one to help with all that. So like it's always been something I've enjoyed, working with my hands, learning to fix things, build things, etc.
That's awesome. Because like that's how I was too. Like I helped my dad. We like you said, we did when we needed new shingles and the roof work, did that. My grandfather was a mechanic. You know, I was in his shop a lot. At his house shop, and then everybody in the family always did something, and I was always like intrigued by it, and that's kind of how I got into HVAC too.
I mean, I have a lot to learn. Like I feel like I barely know anything, to be honest.
It happens. It happens to all of us because this trade is evolving like nonstop too.
Absolutely, and if you're not learning something new every day, you're probably in the wrong trade. Like because everything is evolving so much all the time.
And that's what I love, because I'm the type of person that gets bored really easily. I don't like to be doing the same thing all the time. So like I get to see different equipment every day. I get to be challenged, and I actually like that, right? When you're having a hard time with equipment or trying to learn something new, I like that. I like being able to figure things out. Let me just ask you real quick. I don't want to dwell on it, but being a woman in the trades, because I get a lot of requests for having more women on the show and getting their experience on that. Did you have a tough time coming into this trade because it's so male dominant?
You know, when I first got into HVAC and like took that sales job, I was a little concerned. Like I was platinum blonde. You know, I dyed my hair back natural because I wasn't going to be the dumb blonde who didn't know anything. But luckily I had good contractors who were willing to work with me and teach me stuff. But I would be very open and honest about it. Like, hey, I don't know what that part is. Do you have a minute that you can explain it to me? Or can you text me a picture so I know exactly what you're working with? You know, so not being afraid to ask questions is very key. When I first moved to the contractor side of the business, there was a lot of pushback because I'm just a woman. What do I know? These guys have been doing it. The employees were, 30 years, whatever. But it's like, why do I have to teach you that you don't have to go get an OEM gas valve? It's a Honeywell. Like, can I go get it from a different parts house for a third of the cost? Yeah, like it's the same thing. It's out of warranty. Who cares? Let's go get it here and pay $100 versus $300.
Yep.
So there is a lot of pushback there, but I think being able to work in it every day and grow is key. But for our clients, I think it's actually helped me being a woman because they're less intimidated. We get very different responses talking to people. They're not afraid to call me. They're not afraid to ask questions, but they also know I'm going to show up and I'm going to fix a problem for them. So I think it helps in what we're doing right now. But I think if I was in it more every day, and even probably in like residential, going to people's houses, I would probably get more pushback than I do now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've had a few women on the show and getting their different responses is like you said, residential, and for whatever reason, I even had Johnny Castro on here a few weeks ago, and he talked about just somebody looked him up and down. He's Hispanic, he's in dark complexion, and they refused to let him in.
It's crazy.
And the same thing with the women that I've had on here. They say that they show up and then they're like, well, when is the real tech going to show up or something like
Yeah.
that, right? So it's a shame. I do like that I'm seeing more women out there. I believe you guys are on, or you, Megan, are on TikTok, right?
Yeah, our TikTok page is, from my perspective alone, just to try to promote more of the women's side of
And I've seen a lot of women on the TikTok side too, and they're great techs. They're doing a lot of installs, service work, and they're out there fixing stuff. So I love to see it, and I hope to see more of it.
Yeah, I'll try to get better about posting. Sorry, guys. I'm busy.
So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to close on. We're at over an hour and a half now. I told you I'm pretty bad about doing that.
I didn't realize what time it was.
This always happens, and I feel bad about it.
We're mechanical environments on every platform. You can find us on LinkedIn. Our Instagram pushes to Facebook. Not that we really interact on Facebook much. TikTok is, from my perspective,
We got some stuff on YouTube.
YouTube. Matt likes to put videos up there.
Yeah, if you need help with low ambient controls, I got some good YouTube stuff up there.
Yeah, or taking apart mini splits and cleaning them and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that up there. If you want to see some dirty units, go to YouTube.
Yeah, Cannabis HVAC, like, you're going to be on ladders. There's going to be a lot of cleaning stuff, a lot of dehumidification, but there are good customers. They can't stay in business without you, so it's a give and take relationship. Like, we really like the niche that we're in.
Yeah, you do have to be 21.
Yeah.
To work.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Facilities. So just as anybody who's looking, any of the young ones trying to get in, like, you do have to be 21, unfortunately, because you have to sign in legally to every facility.
Oh,
So.
okay. I didn't even know that. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and
well, that's great. I've seen some of your content. Hopefully you guys post more. I really appreciate you guys for making the time to come on here. It was fun. It was interesting to find out about your side of the industry, because I don't think I've heard too much of it, and I know now a few people that do it. So it's always interesting to hear it and see what you guys have to go through and the obstacles and different things, because that's a whole other thing, working around plants and, like you said, being high on ladders and stuff. So thanks for sharing you guys' story.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yep. We'll be at the Tactical Awards.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys will be at the award show?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
We went last year. It was fun.
I'll be there. Last year I was only there for I think a day. But I'll be there at the award show. I'll be there at the AHR convention, and
awesome.
Hopefully I get to see you guys there.
Sounds great. It's gonna be a good time.
Look forward to it.
All right, I appreciate you guys for coming on. Anybody watching or listening, I'll see you guys.
See ya.